Hi, I'm Damien, this is Enneagram Life, and today I'm going to talk to you about Enneagram Type 4, and in particular, how they often complain. Enneagram Type 4 complains more than most Enneagram types. So, this reminds me recently of a person I was working with who complained tons, and that was as a road traffic controller. I was replacing, he was working at a particular construction site. They're building some apartments, and he normally was a road traffic controller at this construction site, but a laborer had hurt her shoulder. And so he was replacing the laborer and doing the laboring of getting a jackhammer and just smoothing out like cement on some of the floors, on different floors, tidying up the cement work with a jackhammer and some other tools. And so that's what he was doing now. Normally he was a road traffic controller, and I was replacing him. So now I was the road traffic controller on the construction site. He was replacing the laborer. And whenever I would see him, he would always talk about how bad of a job the laborer had done, and how he was doing such a way better job of tidying up the cement, and how he was making her look good by doing such a great job, because it was her job to tidy up this cement. And he'd always just go on about the things she couldn't do, how she didn't know how to do certain things, and how his job was way better. Yeah, so he was complaining about her, but he was also a form of recognition seeking, in that he was talking about how great his job was. So a lot of it can be for that reason, for recognition seeking. It's a part of recognition seeking. When you complain about someone else or something else, like an organization, it can be about saying, hey, I'm better. But often too, it's about just expressing negativity. Yeah, like I would see, like sometimes, like when that laborer came back, he then replaced his cousin, because his cousin, I was working with his cousin as at the same site as road traffic controller, because I was replacing him as a road traffic controller, and the laborer got sick and he replaced the laborer. But then when the laborer came back, his cousin got sick, and so now he was replacing his cousin as a road traffic controller, and I was replacing him as a road traffic controller. So me and him were working together as road traffic controllers. And so he would often come up to me during that and complain about his cousin, say how terrible his cousin was. His cousin was always on the phone. His cousin was always sitting down. His cousin couldn't control the traffic properly, didn't control the trucks properly, didn't organize the area for where the trucks were supposed to go properly, how he'd do so much better. And he'd always go on about how bad his cousin was doing. And a lot of that too was the recognition seeking. He even had on his phone videos of traffic control work he'd done in the past, and I've never seen anyone do that. Show road traffic control videos of trucks driving onto sites through witches' hats, cones, safety cones and whatnot, as just to show people. And this is relates them to the 3, of course, because they're right beside the 3. And the 3 is all about the recognition seeking. So, but the 4 starts to, it's a bitterness. They gain more bitterness about the 3 is all about, the pure 3 is about saying how good he is. That's just plain and simple, going on about how awesome he is and how good he is. But then, and the 4 also thinks they're fantastic, the 2, 3s and 4, they're the shame types. They have that, or the shameless types, if you want to look at it that way. They have that belief, that self-love, and so it gets expressed differently in it. At the 3, it's just, the pure 3 is about going on about how great you are, but then when you add the bitterness, it starts to turn a bit bitter with the 4, and it becomes, the concept of I deserve more. That's the bitterness. this, it still has the same core of self-love, because you think you're so great, that's why you deserve more. But there's the element of bitterness that's come into that concept of I deserve more. And that leads to complaints. And so, they might complain, I deserve more might lead to complain about at a restaurant, about the service at a restaurant or the service at a hotel. Anyway, so he would complain about his cousin as the road traffic controller, and a lot of that too was the seeking recognition. He'd complain about his cousin, so by saying his cousin's bad, he's saying he's good, he's better. So he's saying he's good. He's expressing that self-love. So that's the recognition seeking. But also, you could see sometimes it was just motivated by boredom or feeling low, which is an expression of negativity. Because you could just see on his face sometimes, and like he was looking sad or bored or down or for some reason, and then he would just launch into attack about his cousin, go on about how bad his cousin was. Yeah. So that was the recognition seeking is a big reason why they complain. Just expressing negativity, feeling bad. When they feel bad, a way of letting off steam. Complaining about something. That reminds me of a guy. We used to live in a share house. I used to live there with two guys, and he was one of the guys that lived there. And he was a 4, and he would always complain about how messy it was, all the common areas. But 90% of all the stuff was his stuff, and it was just him feeling bad and wanting to express himself. So he'd just attack the mess around him, which 90% or more was his. And you could just count the items. It was objectively his stuff, but that was totally lost on him because the delusion of the personality takes over, and they don't feel the need to do that. It's just an easy outlet of that negativity to complain about something. And also, it's attention seeking. So that's a big part of why he would complain about the apartment. He wanted to talk, he wanted to say something. Yeah. And so, recognition seeking, attention seeking, expressing negativity. These are big reasons for it. All motivated by that same core. The shame type core, the shameless type core, that feeling of being special in particular for the 4s, but that feeling of self-love, which is all of the shame types, or the shameless types, the 2, 3, and the 4. And so this behavior of complaining and how he would complain about like the dirty apartment, the old roommate. There's also in that there's a lot of sulking. Like that's a good word for some of, when they're feeling bad and then they start to complain about something. That's a form of sulking that often gets them attention. So there you have, like, it's not just one of those 3. It's not just attention seeking or recognition seeking or expressing negativity. It's, he's feeling bad, so he wants attention because he's feeling bad. So that's expressing negativity, and it's expressing negativity, and it's seeking attention. And, all 3 of those reasons can be involved, can be a part of it. Not that those exclusively are the 3 reasons for it, but they're some of the bigger reasons for it. And for their complaining. And so the sulkiness, like if you think about sulking, you think about a kid often, and it's like, when he's sitting there and he's all glum, or he's saying, complaining about something, going blah, 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 blah. Someone will come, oh, what's wrong? His mum will come up, oh, what's wrong? Are you okay? That's the gain of attention, and complaining has got them that attention. So you can see it it's a similar behavior in adults. Obviously, we all do a bit of that at some point in time, but the 4s, they do a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, and a 4th reason why Enneagram Type 4 complains a lot, and this is a big reason, is that they have this enormous oversensitivity to any form of perceived disrespect. So any sort of like criticism or admonishment, or someone says something they feel insulted by, they will have this intense hatred towards that person. They will have this enormous just bitterness and disgust towards that person. It'll be like vile, and that will make them complain about that person, if not to the person, but to other people about the person, massively. I used to know this Enneagram Type 4, and every time he ran out of something to say, like every time the conversation, he didn't have anything more to say in the conversation, I knew he was about to just shit on this guy called Ian that we both knew. And he hadn't seen Ian for years, but at some point years ago, Ian said something like, "Oh, that's because you love drugs, or you're really into drugs." And this guy, this Type 4, was a massive druggo, enormous druggo, always going on about drugs. And all Ian said was something small like that, like something like, "Oh yeah, but you're really into drugs," or something like that. And then after that, any time, like the conversation, just because I happen to know both of them, whenever I would see this Type 4 and a conversation died down, he would go, "So have you seen Ian recently?" And then he would just launch into his enormous hatred of him and why he hated him and how he was a piece of shit and all of these things. Yeah, so massively complaining about Ian because years ago he had, he felt that Ian had disrespected him. That was his perception of what happened. Because if there's, because they have that core of self-love that all the shameless types have, the 2, the 3s, and the 4. The shameless or the shame types have that massive oversensitivity to any perceived slight. And that's an enormous reason for them to complain. So that's 4 reasons: the recognition seeking, attention seeking, expressing negativity, and oversensitivity to disrespect. They have 4 major reasons for Enneagram Type 4 to be complaining. Thank you. Oh, and it's August 2022.